Hello, you're listening to the Neil Lamptey Show. My name's Joey, and I'm joined this week by Paul.
All right, mate.
And by Dom.
Hello.
Moments of the week, guys. Paul, I'm going to throw to you first.
It's the whole way that the Sunderland fan base has reacted to our demolishing of their terrible side. The lack of grace and just the overall sulking they've done ever since is hilarious.
See, I've not encountered that at all. All I've seen is magnanimous, kind of reasonable Sunderland fans. Was it the Roker Report or something put out quite a good thing that said, beaten by a better team, here's where we were architects of our downfall. Was that you that retweeted that, Dom?
Yeah, I thought that was really quite impressive. Sort of the analysis on it, sort of like the shape. Mate, it was. I read that and I thought maybe that's sort of even slightly too hard on Sunderland. I thought, without going too deep into it, I thought Sunderland had something to offer, and they sort of made it difficult for us for quite a long period of that game. But yeah, it sort of depends who you want. It's because always the sort of negative reaction and stuff like that on social media always sort of gets echoed more, doesn't it? There was like a column in the Sunderland Echo, which loads of people have been sharing from like their main columnists. Haven't actually read it, but it's sort of like, Coventry celebrated like they won the title, and it's only March, and we'll see where we are. And Coventry are so fixated on Sunderland.
But
then it's like, by reacting to it, aren't you kind of also proving his point?
Yeah. Paul, where have you seen this this mean-spirited Sunderlandness?
Mainly on Twitter, there's sort of people going, they did a lap of honour. And it's sort of, they didn't walk to the two empty stands, so they didn't do a lap. But also, when Sunderland win at home, and I've got to be honest, I haven't witnessed that since like 1995 or something. Do their players just walk straight off the pitch, or do they clap the fan? I think it was just like the whole this whole thing about people are it's like we're top of the league. Are we not meant to celebrate the fact we're top of the league? Isn't that
Guys,
the whole point of football? This
is never going to happen again.
And it's like the thing. It's like stood there with Pritchard and walking out, and he's sort of grunting, so I can't cope with this. So what do you mean you can't cope with this? We're top of the league in March for the first time in our entire lives. And not only that, we played two of the hardest teams in the division in 4 days and beaten one of them and got a respectful draw in the other. If you can't enjoy this, when can you enjoy it? Yeah, it might still blow up in our face. But ultimately, I've seen us lose once this season. And we're in March. And I go to a lot of games. I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy everything that comes with this. Yeah, I'm going to walk around the house and mention to the girls, who's top of the table? And they're going to respond, Coventry. And if that pisses a Sunderland fan off, so be it. But we're going to embrace this.
I do increasingly feel like there's a lot of Springfield and Shelbyville in the relationship between Coventry and Sunderland.
But as I was sort of discussing during the game, the thing is, it's all Sunderland. Cov fans don't care, especially Cov fans of our generation have no knowledge of the 1977 Jimmy Hill thing, apart from the Sunderland fans moaning about it. If they let it go, then most of the people who are complaining about it were people who weren't even fucking born, because it was 42 years ago. So most of the people affected by it, because they come from the northeast of England, probably aren't around much anymore anyway, because the life expectancy ain't that high.
To be fair, there is probably a Sunderland podcast, albeit one much more successful and probably on Netflix, that's accusing us of the very same thing right now.
But I mean, ultimately, when we were growing up, no one cared. Like the Sunderland, there was no rivalry with Sunderland. No one cared about Sunderland. And to some extent, I still don't care about Sunderland. It was just funny for how much they're whinging about it. And as I said, it's the whole, the lap of honour. It's like, no, it's just fans and players appreciating the fact that we're doing well at the moment. That's what that is. That's a nice thing to see.
What's wrong with you, Sunderland? You've never seen Jordan Shipley before? That was what I would have said to him in that voice.
Had one if you're right.
You are, yeah. You never, yeah, quite. Dom, moment of the week.
I'm going to go with the 2 minutes of the Sunderland match where we were absolutely on top, and I wasn't absolutely just on the edge of my seat, on the verge of a heart attack from the tension of the game. Just that 2 minutes capped off with the goal where just like we were going to be absolutely sailing to victory. So yeah, sort of that moment of bliss where it's just like, oh, maybe this is going to be this moment where we just produce our most convincing performance of the season and really just rattle the goals past someone at St Andrews in the league for once.
Yeah, there was a period where it felt very, very good, didn't it? But like you say, it was very short-lived. I'm delighted that nobody else has gone for their goal being ruled off. That was absolutely delightful. Did no one else? How did you two experience that? I wasn't at the game, of course. Dom, how clear was it within the stadium that it was going off straight away? Because it didn't seem that much on telly.
I don't think I had a great view of it. All that I saw was that there was a shot. It seemed to change angle quite quickly, and Moroshi was quite angry about it. But the Sunderland fans were so certain in their celebration. I was just like, that's a goal then. We've blown it. And then it was just that sort of slow build-up where you can see sort of the conversation with the referee, and then the referee slowly walking over to the linesman, and the Sunderland players sort of starting to twig that there might be conversations going on. But yeah, it was just the absolute certainty of the celebrations, which seemed to suggest.
It was good refereeing, though. Because
it was. I'm not saying that. Why does that feel like you're arguing with me?
No, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying. It was more of a statement. It was good refereeing. From where we were, their player was offside, and as Dom said, the ball obviously changed direction because the way Morosi didn't dive, he sort of fell over to one side. But I think the referee knew it took a deflection, but didn't know who it took a deflection. He knew it took a deflection, but he wasn't sure the player who did the deflection was offside. And the linesman knew the guy was offside, but I don't think he knew that he had actually touched the ball. So it wasn't until they actually went and had a conversation, which is sort of surely that's just good refereeing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's no point in them otherwise, is there?
Yeah, he's not sure. The linesman wasn't sure. But then when they had a conversation, they came to the right decision. And it was the Sunderland player, the number 13, who'd spent the entire game cheating, diving, and being a complete twat. And you were like, I'm so glad it was you who stopped them scoring, because you shouldn't have been on the pitch anyway. And I obviously got into the Sunderland game. When we saw Sunderland at the start of the season, it wasn't long after Parkinson had taken over. And apart from Chris Maguire, who spent the entire game moaning at the referee, they were just a normal football side. Parkinson's been there for like 6 months now, and they're just utter scum in the way they go about playing the game. And I'm not one for it's football versus anti-football shit. But when the opposing team are always late, are always falling over, are always just like doing the narky things in football, and from a team that weren't doing that at the start of the season, you're just like, it must be horrid to go into training each day and it's like, what are we going to do today, boss? The dark arts of football. We're going to learn how to pass and shoot. Nah, we're just going to kick people and elbow them and just niggle off the ball. We'll do that for an hour, and we'll turn into a team that's just not pleasant to watch. You're like, really?
I would like to practice both, to be fair, for full disclosure.
Oh, yeah.
I would be more annoyed about coming in and them saying what we're going to do is a full day of just football with no dark arts at all. Maybe this is why me and you should be a managerial team.
Well, I mean, to be fair to apart from Liam Kelly, who likes a good dive, and Matty Gotton put in a beautiful dive in the second half, since JCH went, we're not that sort of side. I don't think we're that particularly dirty either. We don't seem to pick up many yellow cards. I mean, apart from McFadson's penchant for giving away penalties, we don't seem a dirty side, but not. We're sort of stupid dirty rather than cynical dirty. And it was like, just watching Sunderland, it's like, you're just cynical. It's just can't be that much fun to watch, surely to God. I mean, I know we had it for a little bit under Aidy Boothroyd, and it was a bit like, this is a bit turgid. But I said, you're Sunderland. You are one of the biggest teams in this division. Surely you should be trying to sort of be better than opposition instead of just trying to sort of play that style of game?
I'm quite disappointed to hear you say that, because ultimately, like, the problem. Well, they've been quite successful, haven't they? At least in recent weeks. I just don't. I think get up and win games. I don't really think there's anything. I think it's a perfectly valid thing to just go out and win however you want. I would say less about the style of football they play, more just the lack of ambition from Sunderland, more generally speaking, of going and getting Phil Parkinson as the person to get you out of that division. It's not even someone with he's not a Neil Warnock where he's got out of the League One like fucking 7 times. Oh, sorry, first swear. Out of League One 7 times or something. Isn't it just Bolton and maybe Bradford? This is hardly managerial royalty. Do you know what I mean? It's not worth the trade-off for someone like who's going to be like, well, it'll be vile, but it'll definitely be a promotion.
Is it worth to swear or say that people in the North East have a slow life expectancy?
Right, okay. Shall we? We've got a lot of football to talk about. So, where do we start? Rochdale, Paul.
Rochdale. We went there. We scored quite early from a Rose header from their goalkeeper flapping. We'll get through this one quite quickly because it was a long time ago and it wasn't that interesting. Then we were brilliant for 15 minutes, and then we're awful for about 20 minutes, where we should have conceded a penalty. We really should have conceded at least one goal. And then we sort of got back on track a little bit. It wasn't a great game, was it? From what I remember. I'm asking Joey now because he was stood near me, and I'm assuming he was paying some sort of attention to the game.
I thought it was okay. I thought there was something about it. I don't think it's one that will live super long in the memory, but we're also being quite privileged at the minute to now. I remember when we won at Rochdale recently, where it was the first time we'd won there, and it felt like a momentous occasion. Now we're going to Rochdale and winning and walking out having been like, well, it should have been a bit better than that.
I mean, Morosi had a good game, and the defence are just good, aren't they? I mean, it's where we're at now. They make occasional silly mistakes, but they're pretty solid. Then we scored a second because Dabo intercepted a pass and did what Dabo does, which is basically charge at field and create havoc. He passed the ball to Allen, who's really beginning to show how good a player he is. It'd be interesting to see what will happen with him when him, O'Hare and Walsh finally completely click. If anything, they're playing well, but it's not quite falling for them. Sometimes they don't quite make the right runs for each other, but it's getting there, and each game they're getting better. And obviously, Alan played the ball through to Godden, who scored. I mean, the goalkeeper really was having a bit of a mare for both goals. I mean, I'm just watching the second one again. The goalkeeper. I mean, to be fair to the goalkeeper, he done Godden a good favour there because Godden was awful in that game, and that goal, I'd like to think, has also led him to score in the next two. So the goalkeeper there did him a favour because he sort of kept Godden in the side and really helped us out in the next two games. And then straight from kick-off, they went proper route one, punted it down the pitch. Our defence, who I've just praised, all stood there and went, what was that? And their player rolled it into the back of the net and went to 2-1. And then we made some subs and the game sort of died a death and we walked away going, yeah, we beat them Rochdale, but we really should have done because they're not very good, and we are.
I need to remember to ask Jim Brown this. I wonder if it's the shortest period of time in living memory, well, in however long, between us scoring a goal and us conceding a goal. Because I hadn't even looked up. I couldn't. When the Rochdale fans started to celebrate, I was like, well, it couldn't be a goal. How did they get the ball up there that quickly? And then I've seen it back since, and you're like, oh God, we really let that happen to ourselves, didn't we? Yeah.
I mean, it was.
Paul, I don't know whether you're cutting out or whether you're just changing your mind mid-sentence. What?
A little bit of A and a little bit of B.
Give us Rotherham then, if you've got nothing to say more on Rochdale.
I mean, obviously I could wax lyrical for the next half an hour about Rochdale, but I don't think anyone wants to listen to it. Then Rotherham. Now, I think we all accept, and I believe that Mark Robbins accepts, that he made a mistake. And his mistake was going 2 up front against Rotherham. Because the whole point of the way that we play is the striker's basically normally there because we have to play with a striker. But our whole game is based around our midfield 4. And our midfield 4 are really good. And they're all playing... apart from Kelly, they're playing really well. Kelly's a bit off the pace, but he's so important that you wouldn't possibly drop him. But he's definitely, in the last 2 games, there's been question marks over how well Kelly's been playing. He's sort of shown a bit like he did against Birmingham that he needs to learn that you don't get that much time. You do against teams like Rochdale. You can have half an hour against Rochdale, against Rotherham, against Sunderland, against Birmingham, against Portsmouth. You've got to be quicker in your decision making. And if it sounds really harsh to pick on him after the results we've had, but he's one of those players just like, we just need a little bit more from you at the moment, especially if we're looking long term to the Championship days. You've got to really show that you can adapt.
He could also be very tired, couldn't he?
He could be very tired, but I mean,
you're looking for a liberal way of saying man up, aren't you?
Well, not man up. It's just he could be very tired, but also he's a professional footballer and they play football, and he's not. He doesn't play in his role. It's not like if Dabo was tired, be like, hands up, you run like marathons every game. Kelly, he gets around the pitch, but he's not. Back in the day, people played like 50 games a season. No one really talked about tiredness. I just think he's not particularly playing that well.
You're agonising it over this like you're trying to reword something that would sound otherwise racist. Aren't you just saying, Liam Kelly, get on with it? Why are you beating around the bush so much?
Because I think it's a case of I don't really agree with the tiredness thing. I think it's a bit of a red herring. I just don't think he's playing particularly well. But it's not. The thing is, it's a bit odd because, as I said, it's not playing particularly well in the context of playing in a very good team that's playing well. He just is dropping below some of his teammates. So he's not playing a 5. He's just playing probably a 6.5. I sort of would probably drag the criticism a bit further than needed to be.
Yeah, anyway.
It's my fault. I could have just said... Anyway,
back to Matty Godden. Anyway, so let's carry on with the Godden bashing.
Well, I mean, we don't discuss Matty Godden. He's scoring goals now. I mean, again, you could launch into the fact that he's finally scoring goals in the best team in the division. He's basically doing his job, but that would seem trite, wouldn't it?
It would.
Let's just go with.
It seemed. It
would seem, wouldn't it?
It seemed mealy mouthed. And it'd seem ludicrous to point that out, which is why it's good that that's not what you're doing.
I wouldn't possibly say that earlier in the season he wasn't playing well and not scoring. Now he's scoring. No, I mean that would be cruel as well.
Same as I would say
scoring goals.
Same as I would say that Bakayoko has got a lot of real qualities.
I mean, he's scoring goals. I don't know why we're discussing this because we haven't got to the goal yet. But he scored 3 in 3. I mean, he's had 3 decent touches in 3 games, and that's amazing. I mean,
unbelievable.
He's scoring goals.
You literally can't help yourself, can you?
Mate, you were there at Rochdale. I don't have to defend his performance against Rochdale. He scored against Rochdale. He had 1 decent touch against Rochdale. You could argue with me, but I was stood near you, and you know that's true. Anyway, I think no one wants to listen to us bicker like an old married couple about our top goal scorer who scored 3 in 3 and obviously scoring magnificent goals.
And that's all there is to be said about it, of course. Yeah,
that is that's purely all we need to discuss. We played Rotherham. They're a big side. I don't think they're as dirty as Sunderland. I think they're just a big side who know how to use it. They're obviously a confident side in the run they've been on. They obviously again looked at us. And they looked at the formation we were playing and they were like, well, we can stop these boys doing what they want to do now because they're trying to go long, but they can't really do that. Biamu, who often wins more than he loses in aerial challenges, wasn't winning anything in the air. He was playing a lot on side someone who wasn't playing particularly well either. So the front 2 weren't particularly providing us with much. O'Hare I don't think he quite knew where to go.
Yeah.
The wing backs need their outlet balls, and their outlet balls are O'Hare and Allen. So the wing backs were also sort of being a bit stunted. It didn't really work. The advantage is that our back three, and to be fair to Carl McFadden, talking about players who've gone through rocky spells this season, the back three have been magnificent, and each one of those rose to the challenge. And unfortunately, Morosi dropped the ball on his line, and they scored from it. Whether or not, I know some people are saying that it looked like he was knocked out of his hand. To me, it didn't look like that. To me, it looked like he dropped it. And that's, I mean, Morosi's been exceptional this season. He made some saves against Rochdale when we were 1-0 up that could have let Rochdale back into the game. He made another couple of decent saves against Rotherham. You know, he's not a player who is going to be criticised for making one mistake. It's just unfortunate he made that mistake against Rotherham to give, you know, if you think recently we played Fleetwood, we kept a clean sheet. We played Portsmouth, we kept a clean sheet without ruining what happened in the Sunderland game, but we kept a clean sheet. We played the top teams, and none of them have scored against us due to the hard work of the back three and Morosi. He was due a mistake. It just would have been nice if it had been against Rochdale rather than Rotherham. But as I said, he made other saves, and you know, I think his quality stands out. And it was almost like we just need to get to half time because we'd gone 2 up front at the start, which is our sort of go-to move when we need a goal. We didn't really have anywhere to go, so it was more a case of just hold in there until something came good. And then, obviously, Liam Kelly is just magnificent, isn't he? I mean, the guy's just way too good for League One, and did a nice little bit of trickery after a free kick. Get the ball to? Did he get the ball to O'Hare? He put the ball wide.
I think you said Liam Kelly there, but I think you mean Liam Walsh.
Liam Walsh.
Yeah.
Sorry, Liam Walsh. And he passed the ball to O'Hare. He played the ball out to Dabo, who looked like it was a bad first touch, but what he was doing was feigning the defender and creating space. And he put in a delightful ball, which Matty Godden sort of nailed into the bottom corner with a delightful header.
It's such a good header. It's
a great header. And it's, you know, this is, for all our comments on Godden, this is the second time recently that he's done that, because he did the similar sort of goal against was it Tranmere, and it's just it's a great header. I mean, that's just where you want him. You want him in the box. Yeah, we won't go over that again because we've just done that discussion. But basically, all I would throw into it is Pritchard, who's very, very much of the goal strikers committee and is fully paid up member of the strikers task force. He's definitely a guy who you only want to see touch the ball once in the penalty area. You don't want him to be involved in the build-up.
Yeah, but that's fine, isn't it?
And that's fine. That's exactly, in this team, that is absolutely fine, because you've got people like O'Hare, Allen and Walsh. Why would you want someone else interfering with that, as long as they're making the right moves? The game then sort of petered out a little bit, because I think Rotherham were quite happy with the draw, because we'd scored 2 minutes into the second half. So I think they were like, yeah, we can handle a draw here because we've got Milton Keynes Dons at the weekends. We're going to beat them, so, you know, draw here's okay. And we were like, we've come from behind. A draw's all right. And then in the last minute, Godden had a header from a corner that he put agonisingly wide. Didn't realise it was agonisingly wide until I saw the replay about 2 days later. And you were like, 1-1 draw against Rotherham. In the fact that we didn't play the right system from the start, hopefully we've learned from that against Sunderland. But would have taken a draw from that game. It leaves us levels on point with Rotherham, leaves us sort of one with the game in hand. Let's see what Sunderland have got.
With Rotherham, I was really impressed with them in a way that, like, do you remember when we saw Southampton in League, maybe the Championship, and they beat us? No, was it League One? They beat us 4-2, and it was at the Rico. Was that in the Championship? Was it?
That's when we went down.
Yeah, and that's presumably when they went up, wasn't it? That was fairly early on, and I remember thinking then, you will have really messed this up if you don't go up this season. And there's been a handful of times where you see a team and you think, you really should get promoted because you are noticeably better than everyone else in this division. I did think that, especially in the first half watching Rotherham, they just looked so... Bearing in mind that we are able to handle ourselves, I thought at times in the first half we looked like a kids' team playing against a men's team. And I think you're right, Paul, is I don't think they were like a cynical team. I thought they looked like a team of very talented athletic players, just really composed and ruthless. I mean, I like football like that anyway, but that I did watch them and think, you should probably go up this season. Did you think that highly of them, Paul, or what?
Yeah, I did. The problem is, it's really hard to be dispassionate at times, and you felt that it was really difficult because you felt basically after about 5 minutes that we just got it wrong. We'd got it absolutely wrong, and you were like, almost bring Alan on now.
Yeah, just cut your losses and go with it.
Yeah. But once we went 1-0 behind, you were like, you can't do that because you've gambled, you've come out swinging. So because you've already come out swinging, you've almost got to stick with this and hope that they don't go 2-0 ahead. The biggest advantage we have is the fact our defence is so good that they never really managed to create the decent chances to go 2-0 up. We always kept them where we needed them, which was within one goal. But yeah, I mean, you can see why they win a lot of games at this level. They're a very good, strong, powerful side who aren't a bad footballing side. And you can see why they can steamroll over a lot of teams. And to be fair to them, I think out the teams we've played, they're definitely one of the better ones I've seen recently. And as I said, we played Portsmouth. I was quite impressed with Portsmouth. I know a lot of people were moaning at Portsmouth, but I thought they came to stop us. I never felt Rotherham came to stop us. I always thought Rotherham came to try and beat us.
Yeah.
They were just happy to settle for a draw once that became like...
I think we were lucky that we scored when we did, because I think that if you think about how a game rotates, is that if they score at the end of the second half, then say the first half, and both teams go in and regroup and then sort of replan. We score at the start of the second half. There's a level to which immediately momentum is on your side, isn't it? And that you then take the front foot. And I think if I was in charge of Rotherham at that point, you'd have gone in and been happy with a draw at our place, given the fact that our home form is so good, and that when we score that goal, bearing in mind that they had the team that could do it, I think you'd have done the same, wouldn't you? And it's very rare that I would behave like this as a manager, but I think I'd have said, all right, let's just not do anything stupid now. If we get a goal, then great, but let's just settle in and make sure that we don't make any stupid mistakes. And that's sort of how it ended up playing out, weren't it?
I mean, yeah, and the other thing about that goal is it wasn't a goal that was from a pattern of play.
No, it just sort of came, didn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't sort of, we've been building up pressure. It was basically, the game hadn't really developed into a flow, and we quickly scored. And then when the game did develop into a flow again, we basically cancelled each other out. So it was a case of like this is how we're going to... A bit like in the same way, the only way they were going to score a goal is if something happened slightly out of the blue. The same way for us. The only way we were going to score is that really quick free kick, because they weren't set. That's where our strength is. Again, you could almost argue the same against the Sunderland game. The goal comes so early that the game hasn't settled down into any sort of pattern of play. So it's just a goal that's sprung out of nowhere, and then when the game settles down, that's where we're really quite solid. So it's a bit of an odd thing, isn't it? I mean, we're an odd side in the fact that, as you said earlier, we've won the last 3 games. We've only scored 4 goals. We're not striking. If you're a fan of another team, I think you could quite happily go, well, I don't quite get what Cov are about, because normally when a team's top of the table and unbeaten the way that we are, they're normally, pummeling some team 3 or 4-0. You watch us, and it's so fine margin. We've discussed this all season. It's fine margins. But because we're so defensively solid, because, I mean, the team of the year, I don't see how they could leave out Dabo, Rose and Hyam.
Well, we don't see...
I can't see how... No, except the fact we don't see every other team. But
Dom does, to be fair. But Dom, what would be your insight in terms of, much more about who else has done well in League One this season? Of our players, who would you expect to see in the league team of the year?
I think Walsh is an absolute definite for team of the year. And I think Dabo's probably likely. I think just looking at the other League One right backs, I think there's been some sort of good players, but no one's been quite consistent in terms of sort of like staying in their team. So I'd say Dabra has a good chance, but I think there's quite a litany of good centre backs at this level. Rotherham's Michael Hickway. You've also got Rob Dickey at Oxford United, who would probably get in there ahead of someone like Rose or Hyam. I just wonder as well, just the way sort of our defenders play is sort of quite unnoteworthy almost. Whereas with like Hickway's this tall, dominant centre back who is hard not to notice, and you got Dickey, who's sort of this great ball playing centre back.
Was he wearing number 20 for Rotherham? I'm going to check this now because I'm not a great watcher of Cov games. It tends to be that I'm watching what's going on with Cov, if that makes sense, and that it's not. But it was a rare instance where I came out of that and said to Paul, that guy's a fucking player, and I didn't. But I assume it's him. I'm going to try and find it now. Sorry, carry on.
But yeah, sort of one, just like the manner in my defending, sort of just like being good positioning, being strong as a unit, sort of stopping danger before it really becomes danger, sort of being able to hold teams at arm's length, where I don't think that offers quite the same opportunity for like individual defenders to noticeably stand out to outside observers.
But isn't Michael Rose about to get a Scottish cap?
I think that's sort of more like an opinion piece, but I mean, he can't be that far away. It sounds like there's quite a few injuries in terms of Scottish centre-backs. There are a fair few. Plus, I think with the Scotland team, if you're playing in Scotland, I think you seem to have a better chance because, I mean, you had John Fleck, who was with us for ages and was with Sheffield United for quite a while, playing to a high standard, and was just not getting a look in at all until he got into the Premier League.
Right, okay, Paul, anything that you wanted to add on Rotherham?
No, but I think that really did. I think that answered quite a few questions for Robins going into the Sunderland game. I think while it wasn't the way that you want it to play out in terms of the result was a consequence of the decisions that were made. And I don't think Robins has got much wrong this season, but I think that we very much benefit from having the two attacking midfielders, especially with the wing backs. And I think that I'm glad that to some extent going forward into the Sunderland game that we learned the lessons that were available in that Rotherham game, because, you know, it could have cost us, I think, if the decision to go two up front just was a wrong decision, but we got away with it. But we learned from that, and I think this team is very resilient. Can you remember the amount of times in the past, if we've been 1-0 behind, we've lost? This team isn't like that. Against a difficult Rotherham side, as you said, one of the best teams that we've seen this season, they had enough about them, they had enough resilience to never go 2-0 behind under sort of times where they weren't playing particularly well. And again, we discussed this quite a lot. There are times when individually the players don't play particularly well, but as a unit, they all bail each other out. And there's so many players in that team who are enjoyable to watch due to their attitude and their sort of behaviour and the way that they work so hard that they got the rewards they deserved, even though they weren't at their best.
Lovely old job. Right, Dom, Sunderland then.
So yeah, sort of as alluded to in my moment of the week, the game just started with us completely on top, and watching the sort of extended highlights for the goal itself, it's a period of sustained pressure where Sunderland just can't clear their lines. You've got Rose bringing the ball out of defence, that needs to attack Cameron here, got tackled on the edge of the penalty area. That clearance falls straight to Walsh, who plays it to Allen, and does that thing he sort of does every other game, where he does something completely simple, which is actually quite hard, where his sort of touch and pass takes out about 3 or 4 defenders and leaves Matt Godden completely open in space to one-time that finish past the keeper. And 1-0, very good start. And it just looks like it was going to be a great afternoon of football. And problem was that after that, Sunderland really got a foothold in the game, I thought. They didn't press us ultra aggressively. They weren't sort of going straight for our centre-backs, but I thought they did something quite interesting where it was that second pass that they were putting the pressure under. So as soon as we tried to move the ball from defence to midfield, they're right at our heels. And it just made it so hard for us to just get any momentum going from there on in. It just seemed like there was constantly sort of 2 or 3 players on our midfield 2 or fullbacks when we're trying to build any attacking momentum. And it's sort of times like that you wonder whether maybe if we had more of a out ball up top, whether it's someone really fast or someone can hold the ball up, whether that could help relieve pressure in that situation. But it just seemed throughout the rest of that first half there was this sort of momentum building with Sunderland where we weren't quite fluent and they're just getting the ball forward so quickly. And I mean, as Paul was talking about, their game plan of trying to win free kicks at just about every opportunity. There's a couple just really just egregious, obvious attempts of looking for free kicks that referee unfortunately fell for. There was one with Charlie White who just walked straight into Michael Rose and fell over. That I think became a free kick. And Chris Maguire just spent the whole game moaning at the referee. He's such a talented player. You just wonder whether, if he takes like 50% of the effort he puts in trying to wind people up or trying to get in the referee's ear to actually playing on football, he'd be just an absolutely insane player. And it was just leading to free kicks where they got Maguire's delivery, and there's one in particular where their centre-back was completely free and could have scored. I'm going to put that in the category of could have scored, not should have scored. That would have been a hammer blow, just the way the game was going. But we managed to get through to half-time, and then in the second half, it was sort of the same kind of tactics from Sunderland where, it's just getting the ball forward as quickly as possible, but it just didn't seem to quite carry that same threat. And then even though they were putting on Carl Lafferty and taking off a defender, and then took off another defender, putting off another striker, it just seemed we'd sort of become more aware of that kind of threat, and we were more prepared for it, and we were doing less silly things. And really, for much of that second half, even though Sunderland had quite a lot of the ball and quite a lot of the pressure, it looked like we were probably going to nick something on the counter. There was one very good chance where sort of a ball over the top, then defender misreads and it sends Matt Godden through one-on-one with the keeper. For some reason, I just didn't feel he was ever going to quite put that in, and it transpired he didn't. And about 10 minutes later, with that goal, the celebrations, just wondering, we've really let this game get away from us. But it was disallowed for quite an obvious offside if you watch it back on TV, and then that seemed to especially kill the game off. I suppose the only notable thing I've got down after that was that there was only 3 minutes of injury time, which seemed quite short considering that the game was stopped for about 2 minutes for that disallowed goal. But I'll take that because that was a very tense game of football with not on in it, and fortunately we had the best chance ready to win it, and we took it.
Were you surprised that we won?
Surprise. I suppose it's hard to sort of reflect on that. I wouldn't say it was particularly great or bad performance. It's sort of been quite a lot of the other games we've played against approaching teams recently, but it's just been so tight, and at times we've really been pinned back. But it's just we've just been able to nick things recently, and I think generally when we're ahead at the moment, you don't really see us conceding, even though the game's going to be tight. I suppose you just wonder whether going forward, whether we might need to get a little bit more fluent than we are, an attacking unit. It just seems that end of the pitch seems to have dipped off a little bit over the past month or so, but that could well be down to coming against teams that are pressing us, or just because we're playing against good teams.
I can't believe you're criticising the strike for. He scored 3 and 3. The hell is all this about?
Paul, but, were you surprised, Paul?
No, I wasn't. And the reason why I'm not surprised is we're a decent team, and I don't think, I think we can deal with what Sunderland had to offer. As Dom said, they just threw strikers on, but they didn't really have anything. They didn't have any delivery to the strikers other than the occasional set piece. Now, when we played Blues in the Cup, they had that monster who kept chucking the ball into the box. And you were like, if you had someone like that who could put decent balls into the box consistently, then you're a threat with the players you've got on the pitch. But because Chris Maguire didn't do anything in open play and didn't really try, he just, as Dom said, exactly the same as Stadium Alive, spent the entire time whinging. You were just, you're not using the strengths that you have to try and break us down. You just shove strikers on the pitch and sort of hoping that something will fall. And you could argue that something did with the goal, but I mean, the most amazing thing about the goal is the guy who scores, who diverts it in, doesn't celebrate. And you're like, that's quite a conniving thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, he's clearly diverted the ball, but he's not. He doesn't run away celebrating. It's Max Power who runs away celebrating. And you're like, yeah, you're a devious little bastard, aren't you? But they didn't really have anything, or they didn't have anything which. But I said this during the game. When you have 3 centre backs, sometimes one of your 3 centre backs isn't the best at like doing the donkey work. Like, he's the sort of ethereal passer. Our ethereal passer is probably our hardest centre back. So all 3 of our centre backs are prepared to win the ball in any which way they can. So every time the Sunderland players moved around, like, oh, okay, I'll go against Rose. Oh, okay, I've lost that. I'll go against Height. Oh, okay. The back 3 just dominated that area which they needed to dominate. So Sunderland were never really a goal threat. I mean, it would have been interesting if we hadn't scored after 2 minutes, where the goal would have come from, because after, as Dom said, after that we didn't really have a chance. We had that one when Matty Godden went through, but I'm very much with Dom. It's like, because he's not quick, you knew he was going to try and take it early, but he wasn't really in the best position to take it early. So you never had faith. If that had been someone like Armstrong or Huckabee, you know that they'd have backed themselves to go ahead of their defender, and they had all the options available. You know that he didn't have all the options available. You knew he basically had to go early. It
was quite embarrassing, though, how early he had to, like, how easily he was closed down with the gap that he'd got on and everything. I was trying to explain to a mate of mine. He was like, "No, he should have taken that forward." I was like, "Mate, you've not seen him. He should have just. He had to shoot.
He had to." And the only other option he had was maybe go in front of the striker and defender, and hopefully get a free kick or I think. But yeah, I mean, he as I said, we've seen him enough now. I mean, he gets caught offside quite a lot because of that. Because I don't think he backs his pace, so he goes early for stuff, and it's just. Stay on site, and I think that does kill momentum quite a bit. Like what Don was talking about earlier, it's like the strikers sometimes we concede a lot of free kicks just for, and everyone's favourite Bakayoko. It's in his song. The problem is we don't have a striker who really does stretch the defence because they tend to be offside, and it's just a fact, isn't it? When other teams get on top, and I think that's purely why he played Biamu against Rotherham, is because. When teams get on top against us, we can struggle to bring the attacking play, or we don't have a focal point, which it doesn't matter, as we like joking about earlier. It doesn't. If Godden's scoring, it doesn't matter that he doesn't do the other aspects of his game, and because we're top. So why it's a minor point, isn't it? But there is that point there that when other teams get on top, we do struggle having a focal point up front. It is an obvious thing that. If we get promoted, along with replacing Walsh and O'Hare, which is going to be extremely difficult, is getting a striker. If we're going to continue to play this formation, is getting us a striker who can score goals, but also gives us that outlet. It doesn't matter in League One at the moment because we've got so many good players in so many other positions that we only need to score 1 goal a game. We don't need to dominate that attacking third. If we dominated that attacking third in the same way we dominate other parts of the, we would be scoring 3 or 4 goals a game. We'd have been out of sight against Rochdale in the first 15 minutes if we'd have had that sort of X factor striker. But again, it's minor criticism from a team that's top, and now going into the Ipswich game, where we believe they've just sacked Paul Lambert, so we don't know what we're going to face against Ipswich on Saturday, apart from a team that's sort of losing their grasp on the playoff places, and really would be, ticking off teams that can't possibly catch us. Ipswich are one of those teams now. We could put the nail in that coffin and move on to Shrewsbury the week after.
If only we had someone here who can tell us more in detail about Ipswich.
Yeah, so they are on an absolutely rotten run of form, which extends back about 20 games, of which they've won 4, and it seems mainly down to Paul Lambert, really, who has not only not really sort of implanted any sort of style or pattern of play onto the team, but has just constantly been tinkering with the squad, and it's just led to just no sense of momentum. Oddly, I think at the start of January he was handed a 5-year contract, and that looks just one of the worst sort of managerial contract decisions in football history, up there with sort of Pardew and Moyes getting those big contracts at Newcastle and Manchester United. Yeah, as Paul says, hasn't actually.
That's stunning. 5 years. I didn't know that.
Yeah. This sort of
What's gone wrong with Lambert? Because obviously he did a really good job at Norwich. He was all right. Yeah, was he all right?
Sorry, Colchester. Sorry.
Yeah, Colchester. No, he did Wickham as well, didn't he? He started at Wickham.
Yeah.
And he did all right at Villa. He wasn't great, but it's Villa. What can you do?
Absolutely given the shit end of the stick at Villa, wasn't he? Because he was left to pay the price for Martin O'Neill's excesses, weren't he?
Yeah. But so I was really surprised that, from what Dom's saying, that I always got the feeling that he was one of those guys who, if nothing else, had a system and a style of play.
The rot has been setting in for him for quite some time, though, hasn't he? Is that he's been below par at the last few clubs he's been at. Was he at Stoke for a while? Did he take Stoke down from the Premiership, even though that was sort of carrying the can again a little bit? Then where else has he been?
He took basically like a year out after that, he hasn't worked much since leaving Villa, because he's sort of seemingly kind of sort of one of those names where as soon as he's the job, all the fans are like, oh no, not that guy. Which I always thought the opinion on Paul Lambert turned very quickly after what he did at Norwich. Like, how many people have won double promotions from League One to the Premier League?
And then did fine in the Premier League, yeah.
There's what's his face at Sheffield United. There's Mark Robbins.
Okay. So player-wise, they've been absolutely blessed, haven't they? But that's not quite come off in the recent weeks either, has it?
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to mention, the rumour is that Paul Lambert's replacement, whether he's sacked before this game or after, would be Neil Warnock, which seems quite an odd one considering that sort of 6 points away from the playoffs, having played a game more than everyone. So it's not like if he had a short-term impact, he could lift them quite quickly into getting promoted at the end of the season. It does seem like the season has gotten away from them by sticking with Lambert for this long. So it seems quite strange, but from sound things, sort of knows the owner quite well. And yeah, it seems a given now that when Lambert's sacked, it will be onto their squad. We are playing them at quite a good time in terms of their 2 strikers who have 11 goals each to them this season, Caden Jackson, James Norwood. Jackson is suspended and Norwood is out for at least another month or so. And their other best player, Flynn Downs, in midfield, who is just sort of a very good organiser and passer of the ball, as well as being strong in the tackle, is also suspended for this game. So it leaves Ipswich quite makeshift, even though, they do have a lot of players who've been around the Championship for quite a few seasons and have shown signs of being good players, but there doesn't seem to be a balance to the squad where quite a lot of their best players are central midfielders, quite sort of flighty central midfielders too. So you've got like John Nolan, Emir Hughes, Teddy Bishop, Andre Dizelle, and they sort of just haven't really found a midfield unit that's clicked from those parts. They don't have too many wingers, too many sort of players up top with much pace aside from Caden Jackson. So at the moment they're sort of hanging their hats on a couple of young players who have played sort of less than 5 games each. So Armando Dobra, who's a quick and direct winger. They've also got an 18-year-old striker called Tyree Simpson, who apparently sort of become their battering ram striker after all these injuries. Had Will Keane, who looks tall and scored in 2 of the games we played against them back in December, where we only played Ipswich. From talking to their fans, he's sort of one of those big strikers who doesn't win too many headers. And also Adam Judge, who is a talented player, not the most mobile, but can separate a few goals. So again, there's the parts there that would make up a good team with sort of the right structure around it, but it just seems to just hasn't been that structure there, and things are gradually falling apart. And then, just a big issue recently has just been a struggle to score goals from open play. Although they have occasionally produced some big wins. They put 4 past Accrington and Burton quite recently. So again, one of those. It's dangerous to write them off, but if we're professional and clinical enough about this game, you feel this is almost the ideal time to be playing this opponent.
Lovely stuff. Right, okay. That feels like we've been very efficient in our wrapping up of everything there. Anything that we're missing outside of the kind of overall joy of the situation?
I think we should embrace the fact we're top even more and talk about it even more. We're top in March. Top.
It is magnificent. The thing that it is, and this is probably famous words, this is kind of my own Gerard, I don't see any reason why it should stop.
No, I mean, we seem to have been relatively lucky with injuries in general terms. Most of our key players, we've only got 3 first-choice centre-halves, and they've all tended to have been fit for the majority of the season. Liam Kelly, as much as I said he's not playing 100% at the moment, I think he would be a big loss if he got injured. But other than that, I think you could sort of cope with most things. And then it's just a case of, we just roll on. Almost in a strange way, we're not an amazing team in terms of, as I said, if you watch this, you wouldn't be like, if you think the Moby team was an absolute joy to watch in the way that they played and the way they scored goals, this team isn't quite like that, is it? It's not as quite as
I prefer swashbuckling or whatever.
Yeah.
There's not as much flair. I prefer this team, though.
I said it sort of sounds like a criticism. It's not really. It's just, as we discussed on this, we're just highly efficient and we don't make stupid mistakes. For the 180 minutes against Sunderland and Rochdale, it's like, as Dom said, the Sunderland player got away at a set piece. It happens every now and then. And against Rotherham, Morosi dropped the ball. You're talking minor mistakes over, or minimal amount of mistakes. Morosi wasn't a minor mistake, but minimal number of mistakes over 2 games against 2 very difficult teams. So when you've got that basis where you're not handing teams easy goals, then you only need 1 goal at yourself or 1 decent chance yourself, and you can take all 3 points. And it is just rolling on, isn't it? Our away form's brilliant at the moment. Our home form is as good as it's going to get. So you look at it and you're like, well, we've had a hard games. the remaining 11, we've got Peterborough to come to Oxford, away at Gillingham. You're still looking and go, these are difficult games, but everyone else is in the same boat. Everyone's got difficult games to go. The difference is we're in pole position. I mean, Rob Stevens put that thing on Twitter about we only need 7 wins really remaining. I know that's still 7 out of 11 is still a high proportion, but if we win against Ipswich, that's another knock off, isn't it? It's like, okay, it's only 6 wins till promotion. And I think you've got to embrace this. You've got to enjoy this, because this isn't going to happen. Like next season, it could revert to our normal trend. If the Championship's a difficult division, you look at the teams who got promoted last season; they're struggling in the Championship. It's not an easy division, because you've got big teams in there who've got the Premier League money. It's but we're in the strongest position we've ever been in my entire lifetime at this point. Enjoy it. Just enjoy it. We sold 1,700 tickets for Lincoln in like a day and a bit. There is massive momentum going on. You've got to be on that bandwagon, because there's no point worrying about it or stressing about it or not embracing it, because this is what we've done it for. And people go, oh, you're really happy at the moment. What's happened to you? I support a successful football side. In this podcast, we've talked about before, we've been relegated. We haven't had a good season. This is a good season. You've got to be happy about this. You've got to enjoy watching Rose, Hyam, Dabo, Morosi, Walsh, O'Hare, Allen, Shipley. If you're not enjoying watching those sort of players, then, what else are you going to do? This is what it's about, isn't it?
I think it's funny that for years and years and years, people have assumed that you're a relentless misery ass, and it's turned out actually all it took was for us to get promoted, and that you actually, your mood is so intrinsically linked to how Coventry City are doing that you've just always been miserable. Imagine how delightfully positive and sanguine you'd been about life if you'd have been like a Barcelona fan or something.
But it's one of those, isn't it? It's like I'm down on players I don't particularly rate, but I don't it's not like, I've got to find someone I don't like. It's just a case of mate, again, you stood next to me at Rochdale. You told me you had a good game and we're on different pages. But it's over the years, we've had lots of bad players. People are sort of like, he's not that bad. It's like, no, he isn't a good player. Now we've got good players. Players who are worth being happy and positive about. So you're going to be happy and positive about. How can you watch Walsh and not be happy and positive about him? And he's again, that's something all X factor. It's the journey. Just a very quick one on Dabo. Now, Dabo is a machine. He's an absolute machine, and his work rate is phenomenal. What I love most about him isn't that. What I love most about him over this season, you've seen him develop from a player whose passing was a bit iffy at times to a player who takes the ball in very straight, tight conditions, where he's very close to the touchline. He'll use 1 or 2 touches and he'll find a player, and it'll be short or long passes. And his development of that style of that part of his game has been phenomenal this season. Where I like his attributes. I'm a bit concerned about him being a professional, him being a footballer and who could play at a higher level. You now watch him like you could be you've got technique. You
wonder how high he could go. Actually, I mean, he's now he's even as players like Walsh and Morosi and Rose and Hyam have been really fantastic all season. Dabo does seem to be the overall front runner for. I mean, in this period of games where we've been quite as successful as we have, it is him that's really led the charge on kind of a sort of metaphorical and sort of literal. Do you know what I mean? Is that so much of what's been good about us recently is his ability to, like you say, not only get out of trouble, but also to make the most out of a situation where we win the ball back very quickly and then he's very quickly away because, one, of his power, but secondly, his technique and everything. He's a real figurehead for why this team has been successful, hasn't he?
I mean, let's say he was... the second goal against Rochdale was down to him.
It's lovely, weren't it?
Yeah, intercepting the ball and driving forward and then playing a decent ball to Allen. What goes on after that? Yeah, it's great, and it's sort of obviously that leads to the goal as well. No, but it's the fact that we've had right backs in the past who wouldn't have done what Dabo did. The goal is absolutely exquisite. Dabo's fantastic.
Alan's playing absolutely brilliant as well. Then I believe he passes to someone who, does the pedestrian bit of putting the ball in the back of the net.
He shoots goalwards and the keeper dives over the ball or under the ball. But
what you just described there is every goal that's ever been scored.
That's a lie. Tony Yeboah, that's an amazing goal. Keith Ouch's diving header, the keeper's got nowhere near it. Anyway, but it's Dabo, isn't it? It's that, I say, it's that interception, and then he drives forward, only 5 or 10 yards, but it's that transition which football coaches talk about a lot, the transition from defence into attack, that Rochdale have got the ball, they're attacking, their defence isn't organised, and it's that he intercepts that pass, he reads the pass, he intercepts it, and he goes. And we've had lots of players in the past who wouldn't have. I don't think he would have done that at the start of the season. And I think that's what it's that again journey. It's that progression in his play that you've got to give a lot of credit to both him for. We've all worked with work colleagues. It's like why's that guy got no better in like 5 years of working here? Like, it's got to be down to him. It's also down to the coaching staff, the management staff. They're working on these players. They're developing these players. They're better players than they were at the start of the season. And we've talked about this a lot, where you can't sign players for like half the football season. You can't buy people in. You've got to develop the players you've got. I've always thought, I don't understand why teams don't get better as the season's gone on, because you're coaching the same guy. You're developing a style of play over a season. And what you watch about this Coventry team, we barely signed anyone in January because we didn't need anyone, but B, it's also the players we've got are getting better. It would have been a struggle to bring in people who would have been better than what we had in the majority of positions. And that's something you might not have said in August because of their journey. Again, Hyam's gone from being a lad we brought in from Reading who was part of the under-23s, we're not really sure where his development is, to now you're like, actually, he could play alongside Rose at the centre-back for Scotland. Both of those players have just progressed magnificently over a season. That's what we want. I don't want Andy Webster, who comes in at the age of 34 and he's shit. What I want is players like that, who you can physically see their improvement. You're like, I relate to you. You're a good young player who's getting better. Give me those players. I'm a happy man.
Dom, anything to add before we wrap this baby up?
No, just leave it on that note of positivity.
I think that's lovely, isn't it? Right, thank you very much, Dom.
It's good to be on the show, as always.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, cheers, buddy.
And thank you, listener. Top of the league, baby. Bye.